Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a little winter birdhouse with some birds on it. It's going to be really fun, and I will show you how to do it from step by step from start to finish. Got my husband Mark with me.
Oh, my microphone's over here. Hey there, everybody.
We are professionals. We're almost ready. Okay, let's get started. All right, so if you've got questions while we're painting today, you can ask those. Mark's going to be man in chat today and try to answer whatever you are asking about. All right, I've got a 9 by 12 inch Fredrix canvas board here, Belgian linen. I have not done anything to prep it. It's already pre-gessoed, so I don't have to do anything. It's all ready to go. What you doing?
Turn it here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it works now.
No, it's working. All right. Let's go over our colors. I've got carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, cadmium yellow, medium and light, quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue green shade, and cobalt teal. And then I've got unbleached titanium, which is off-white titanium white, and then titanium white and zinc white. And then this one is glazing liquid, golden glazing liquid, just to kind of help blend our background. And you'll want to have either a palette knife or some sort of a credit card scraping tool for the tree trunk that we're going to do. And maybe some chalk or some watercolor pencil to draw on their canvas. Once we get our background on, we'll be drawing the birdhouse on there. I do have a traceable available. Looks like this. And that will be available on Patreon if you want to get that. They're $1 a month for all of the traceables still. It's going up to $2 next month. So if you're thinking about doing it, you might do it now. And that's for all of the traceables that we have for all of our videos, across all the videos. All right, our brushes, we're going to be using Princeton brushes today. This is a number 12 bright, a number 6 bright, number 4 bright, and then a number 8 Filbert for some of the background and some of the larger details. And I've got a 2-inch Aspen flat kind of paddle brush. Not a paddle. The paddles are cut off right here. This is just a 2-inch. I don't know what it's called, if it's a bright or flat, but anyhow. And then I've got a number 1 oval mop in the select line. And then I've got a bunch of their VelvetTouch in the red handles. I've got a number 1 and number 3, a 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch angle, and the same sizes in the Willow's blenders or blenders. Those are just for some of the smaller details. If you don't have these exact brushes, just use whatever you've got that's similar. It'll be fine. But Princeton is our brush sponsor, so we thank you to them for providing our brushes, and Fredrix is our canvas sponsor, so thank you to them also. I've also got a number 4 Bristle fan, and we're going to just use that to splatter on some of our snow, and also you'll want a little Q-tip or something to dab on there. Boy, you can't really see any of this white on top of that.
Cotton swab.
I brightened up my settings on the camera because seemed like it was getting dark, and I think I might have overexposed because when you put that white against there, it disappears. All right, might have to tone down the camera later. All right, and so the only other tool that you might want is a ruler for doing some of the drawing. If you have one, you might grab it. All right, that's it. Let's go ahead and start painting here. Welcome, guys, and if you are new to our channel, I hope you will stick around, subscribe, come back. We do these twice a week, live shows.
Yeah.
And paint and chat and have all kinds of fun. So if you enjoy it, give me a thumbs up and comment below, and hopefully
sometimes subscribe. Too much fun for some people.
Yeah, some people
don't like to have fun.
Don't like. Some people. I got a comment saying, "Why do you laugh so much?" the other day. It was like, I don't know. I like what I'm doing.
I'll try to be more miserable.
Yeah. Not really sure. Just enjoy painting, and I'm glad to get to do it with you guys. It's fun. A lot of fun. All right, so I'm going to start out with just kind of a white base, and then we're going to just kind of do a mottled background, nothing too fancy on the background. Most of it's going to be just kind of all blurred out. So I think I'm going to add a little bit of a blue tone. It's very white and gray in the background. And so I kind of thought I wanted just to add a little bit of a kind of a gray blue to the background. So just to give it a little, even though it's probably not sky, the angle is probably down low, but there's a lot of this blue color in like the icy winter sky and winter whatever. So hopefully we'll just get away with doing it just a little bit, because I don't want it to compete with the cobalt teal. That's what makes the birdhouse kind of so special, because it's like the only bright thing in this whole background. So we're just going to have a touch, just a tiny blush of blue into our, see how much white I added on there. In fact, I'm going to need a whole lot more white in my, so this is not necessarily sky here that we're doing, and I'm sure it's probably not sky. I am going to put out this fluid zinc white. It'll make this go a little bit easier, because it'll be a little bit more easy to smush around on our canvas too. So I'm just going to kind of try to scrub in this color all over and put it on fairly thickly and quickly, so that we have time for other colors to go on top, and that they'll kind of merge and all mush together, and you don't want it to dry before you get the other colors on there. So just slap that on. And I'm adding a little bit of the glazing medium, because if you are, it'll also kind of slow down the dry time if you use the golden glazing medium. It has a slow dry extender in it, so it'll give you a little bit more working time with your paint. Oh, and I forgot, I should have also sprayed my canvas. I forgot to do that. I usually spray it with a little bit of water, and that also will help with the dry time. What?
I just made the sound of you spraying just.
Oh, okay. Oh,
like
I wondered what that was.
I've been practicing.
Okay.
You're wondering what that was?
Yeah. Okay. And adding a little bit of burnt umber now. And so I'm going to kind of plot out a few trees and just kind of do them really. I'm using this large brush because I don't want it to be super
I want it to be super
whatever. I don't know. Oh, like super clean or anything.
Well,
wow, that is super bright. That
yeah, I'm not seeing much.
Is a little overexposed. Sorry. What were you saying?
You said super, and I said I'd like it to be super. And then I tried califragilistic, but
Supercalifragilistic.
I missed it both times.
Okay.
I'll be quiet.
All right, so I'm making a gray here. You're confusing me while I'm trying to paint and explain things.
That's half the fun of doing the show with you.
Oh, well. Fun for who is the question.
Moi.
Okay, so just trying to kind of create some little and just using the edge of the brush here and kind of dabbing. Wow, I cannot see. There we go. Now you can see what I'm doing.
You are painting something.
Yeah, it's that background is that camera. It'll be better hopefully once we get some other colors on here. So I'm gonna put some darker colors in here now, just a few, and really just basically kind of randomly doing some little sticks and things, trying not to get too fussy with it. It doesn't have to all connect up, if that makes sense. Just kind of, that's good. Wow, I'm gonna have to change my setting on my camera.
Yep.
Sorry guys, hold on real quick here. That's a little bit too dark. Let's try auto.
Please hold. Dun, 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 dun.
Well, I'll leave that. Okay.
Ready to go back? Oops. That one.
No, now it's too dark. Dang it. Let's try it again. No.
Not every
Sorry,
show's
guys.
like this.
Huh?
So not every show's like this.
No, it's my fault because
Trying to get all technical.
well, it was too there. Okay.
Okay.
I think I got it. Let's see. Okay, try that. Better? Better. Okay. It's still a little dark, but it's better than it was. Okay.
Parquet.
So now I'm going to just use this mop brush. I have not wet it down, and I'm going to very lightly. And you got to do this while this paint is still wet. Otherwise, it'll just lift the paint off the canvas, especially if it's starting to dry. So just be careful when you're doing this. Like over here, it's starting to dry a little bit because I was waiting. If I'd done it right away, it probably wouldn't have. If I hadn't had to stop to mess with my camera, it would have still been wet enough. But it's a little bit dry now. But that's all I'm doing is just kind of blending that out just a little bit to soften that up. It doesn't want to soften over there, but you get the idea. Okay. And really, you kind of need to leave it at this point and let it dry completely. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to Mark and let him dry it, and then we'll do some more to it in a minute. And yeah, just rinse that off real quick. So on my reference photo, I noticed that the birds, when I went to draw the traceable, the reference photo was really hard to tell what was happening with their faces and their beaks and things. So when you have that issue on a on something, I probably can't show these because they're probably copyrighted, but I went and printed off some different, I'm not going to show them all, but I printed off different birds from just Google, and I'm not copying them. I'm just using them to get the reference, and I'm sorry I'm not showing them, but I'm afraid of getting in trouble with copyright because I don't own those images. I pay for the images that I use on the show, so just have to be careful about that. But that can help you if you've got a project where you you just can't quite resolve what exactly is happening on it. Then that's an easy solution, is just to kind of go find another image that's similar or has the right lighting or has the right whatever it is that you're kind of lacking in your reference photo, because a lot of times you can't find a reference photo that's exactly what you're looking for. So sometimes I'll have to combine like multiple photos to get it just right the way I want it. So anyhow, that was the case in this one. I'm just going to have to kind of use those reference photos to kind of get the highlights on the beaks and things so that I can have a little bit more definition on them, because they were so kind of blurry in my photograph. I couldn't really tell what was happening in their beaks and things. And I also corrected some of the, I think that the birdhouse in the photograph is maybe like made out of cardboard. I don't know, because you can kind of tell that it's sort of soaked up some moisture and things, and it's definitely wonky. It's not like, especially this line, if you look in the reference photo, it's like way like this. So I just kind of corrected it up a little bit on my thing. We'll draw it out here in a minute once I get this back and kind of get the background the way we want it to. Then we're going to draw in our birds, our birdhouse on top of this. Okay, so now I'm going to use, and if I'm done with my mop brush, I'm just going to rinse that out. I want to use the mop brush dry, because as it gets wet, it just, you can see it just gets floppy. It doesn't do anything once it's wet for the most part. You can kind of use it wet on certain applications if you want to, but I prefer using it dry. And so I'm going to grab the Filbert here. And I need to put out some more white. Use a little bit of the glazing medium with it, and I'm just going to dab it in and around my trees. There's just some really bright little pockets of color, and I'm just kind of flip-flopping my brush, not really being super careful with it, just trying to get a little bit of dabs of color and trying to kind of avoid these branch shapes, but then I can kind of go in here and define them a little bit if I need to, you know, clean up the edges or whatever. If I've got one that I really want to keep and make a little bit more focused, I can kind of go in and outline it a little bit. You don't want to get crazy with it, but this is all supposed to be kind of fuzzy and in the background. So
they would like to see the brush that you started the background with.
The aspen. It's just it's some sort of synthetic. It really is almost like a house painting brush in some ways, but it's got a really I like the fibers. They're really kind of firm and but still flexible, if that makes sense. So and it holds a lot of paint. They're thinner than the red line brushes, which I also like. So I use the red line to you can see how much thicker. The red line is almost twice as thick as the aspen. So I like them both. I use the red line a lot to just kind of quickly, if I'm doing a solid color on the background or something like that, I have the red line paddle brush that I like to use. But those big brushes like that are really nice to have just to kind of when you need a really quick area blocked in. Okay, so just going through here, and there are some like white lines too, so like branches that have white snow on them. So I'm going to use a little bit thicker paint and just kind of have some areas that are almost like lines in here, and make sure you're going right up to, and even over the they're going in all kind of different directions. You think about how your tree's branches would be growing back here. So that's what I'm kind of trying to indicate just a little bit. And again, you don't have to be try to keep it loose and light. And you can also always go back over. So if you get this on here and you're like, that's a little bit too, you know, thick or whatever, you can always go back in and kind of brush it in. I would just be careful using the mop brush on dry paint because it tends to just lift off your wet paint if you're going over the top of the dry. So just kind of test it and see if it's going to do that. It may not work using the mop brush. But you could use another damp brush, like a large flat or something, and just kind of do that and just sort of lightly kind of brush over the top of some of this to blend it in if you feel like you need it. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that, I think. And then I'm going to take my fan brush and get my Zinc White, and I have the fluid Zinc White, so it's a little easier to splatter. I'm just going to splatter a bunch of very large, and having it quite thin, or having a lot of, I'm scooping up that paint on there so that there's a pretty good amount. You can see how much is kind of setting on the tip there, and just tapping off to get some really large snowflakes in the very background happening. And what this will do is kind of create a couple of layers of depth to our painting. So we'll do some splatters again at the end over the top of the finished painting, and having all of these splatters in the very background. There'll be less splatters on the stuff in the foreground, so it'll pull that stuff forward. So if you're looking at, something that's being snowed on, the things that are farther away from you have several layers of snow. The snow is falling right in front of you, but then there's snow all up in between. So having this layer of snow back here will help kind of create that little illusion of depth. Every little bit helps. All right, so while this is drying, we can go ahead and work on our tree that's right here in the foreground, because we don't really have to worry about it lifting or anything. We're going to be going right over the top of what we've already done here, and I'm just going to pick up these colors that we've used in the background. So this gray that we created with Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Umber. I hope I mentioned that. I know you were talking to me while I was doing that. I
don't know what you're talking about. I've been silent the whole time.
Get some burnt sienna here. So burnt sienna and phthalo blue created that light blue color. It creates that kind of blue gray, and then to have a even more gray tone, a true gray tone, we're using the ultramarine blue and burnt umber, and I'm adding just a little bit of burnt sienna to it to kind of warm it up. And I'm just going to find an area right here where I want this tree trunk to go. And I'm going to, and it's pretty straight, so I'm just going to kind of use the edge of the brush there and just kind of draw out my tree trunk. I might do it a little bit more, a little closer to this side. Okay. So we just want it to be, it's touching my microphone, sorry.
It didn't make a loud thumpy thump.
Good, I need to move my mic though. There we go. Move it up out of the way a little bit.
The challenge is accepted.
I'll move it back down once I finish this. So I just got this long handle to contend with here, right here. So I want my birdhouse to be in front of this. I don't want it to go all the way in front, though. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out how far over I can make this. I maybe should have made it a little bit more upright, but I think this is probably good enough. And then, like I was starting to say, just make sure that you have it the same size or larger at the bottom than the top. My top is a little bit wide up here, so I'm just going to widen out farther down. Whoops, what in the world? My brush is skating around on my... what it's doing is catching in some places and then not catching. So it was like I was pulling and then it kind of let loose and I kind of went, whoa, on me. Okay, so I just widened it out just a little bit there so that it was kind of even. And this is really a lot of fun here, what we're going to do with this tree trunk. So we're going to, I started with the medium value just so that we kind of had a base. And then we're going to add our layers on top with our palette knife and our scraping tool. That's what's going to create that bark texture. So I'm going to grab some unbleached titanium and titanium white. The unbleached titanium is just kind of a white that's got a little bit of the yellow oxide and brown in it. So I'm using that flat edge of the credit card, smooth it out, and then pull it through so that you have that paint concentrated right on that edge there. And I'm just going to set it down right along that edge and pull it. And there's a slight curve, so I'm just going to kind of slightly curve it up as I pull until it meets up with the other end of the tree. And try to kind of match them up as I do this. And what you'll do is have these really interesting shapes form. And I didn't wait for that gray to dry, so it may mix a little bit with that gray on the back of the, the first layer of that tree, possibly, which is fine. So I'm going to grab some of that gray and mix it with the white and this unbleached titanium that we just did. And I'm going to add kind of a medium mid-tone. And I'm going to use the palette knife this time. So it's just about, it's kind of the same, maybe a half the size of what I just did. And this time, this will give me a little bit more control maybe. Since it's a little bit more narrow, I can kind of focus it in. But if you don't have a palette knife, just use your other tool and do it again. And what I'm doing now is kind of going for the areas where there's a lot of that background still showing. I want, when I finish this layer or this, this process, what I want is areas like this where there's just a tiny bit, mostly this color. So we're going to put that dark color on top again, even darker, and we'll put those dark kind of almost black areas on our tree trunk. And so here we're just trying to kind of create a light base. And I want to scrape it so that it's hitting the back side of this, because this is kind of the direction that I'm using it. If I was using it in the opposite way, like this way, I'd want the paint on this side of it. So depending on whatever side you're choosing to work on, that's where you want that paint to be. Really fun. This stresses some people out, but if you kind of just let it go and don't have too much preconceived notions about it, don't use too much paint globbed on here. Use kind of a light touch. And I'm actually angling my palette knife too, so that it's almost flat when I'm doing this. You can see how flat I am getting to, and I do the same thing with the credit card. I'm almost using it flat. That's what helps kind of make it skip around. If I used it too much like this, you're not going to get as much of or any of that paint coming off. You're just going to be scraping it. So you kind of have to have it almost flat to the canvas when you do this. All right, I'm going to flip this around and do this side, because it's really almost impossible to do it in the other direction, upside down. Okay.
And if they need some palette knives, they can get them at the brush guys.
Yes, they have these at the brush. This maybe not this brand exactly, but similar ones. Yes. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab some black, some of my browns. I'm gonna get both of these browns, gonna mix them together with the black. Still have that white on my brush just a little bit. And maybe get a little bit of the burnt sienna and yellow oxide over here and do like a little bit of a burnt sienna yellow oxide flavor. Kind of a gray green brown color. Just a little bit of that. And I'm just kind of almost just touching the tip of it here. I'm going to get a little bit of this kind of pukey brown. I don't know. It's not a necessarily pretty color, but it's kind of a little bit of it. And I'm barely touching this on here. Yeah, that's working. Real fun.
Okay, Anakin. Said okay, Anakin.
Anakin?
Mm-hmm. It's working.
Oh. What are you talking about?
I have no idea why that pops in my head every time you say that.
It's working. Because we watched that movie about a bazillion times. That's why our boys were little when it came out.
Yeah.
We watched it so many times. Okay. Mixing up a green with some little bit of burnt umber ultramarine blue and yellow, cadmium yellow medium. Adding some of the unbleached titanium to it. I still have these other colors on my brush, but so using it to kind of create some moss on the tree. It's all kind of mostly on this side, so maybe this is our, what is that, the north side that creates moss, or is it the opposite? I don't know.
The outside.
There's a side that is supposed to be, I'd probably get lost because I really don't know exactly. There's a side of the tree that's supposed to get mossy. You know it's north, or I think it's the north, maybe not.
I'm pretty sure it's the outside of it.
Okay.
I won't be lost.
You're supposed to know these things and help me here. You're so outdoorsy, I know.
I'm not sure people came to this channel to get survival tips. If they did, I'm sorry. You won't last very long.
So, when the zombie apocalypse happens, do not come to our house.
Yeah, don't watch our channel for survival tips.
Be the first amongst the first to go.
Yep.
The one we don't want to run.
If they only knew which side the moss grew on, they would have survived.
If only. Oh gosh. Alright, I'm going to put some white right along this edge. So this is going to be our light side. This is just pure white here. Go easy on this. You don't want it to take over. And I'm kind of just tapping in this time. I'm not getting kind of a clean bit. That's will kind of help also get kind of a rough look to it. I'm just kind of tapping it on there along that edge. So I'm getting kind of an uneven line. The first time I did it a straight line because I wanted it to really cover, but this time I don't want it to cover as much, so I'm just kind of tapping it, letting it come off a little bit more textured. Okay, so that's pretty good. Okay, and then we're going to do one more layer of the dark. This time use this, well, I don't have any of it left. It didn't survive. It dried out on me. When you're spreading this paint out thin like this, it'll dry real fast. So just kind of be aware of that. I'm going to get some of the burnt umber and ultramarine blue and create a dark gray. And then might even add a little bit of black. We'll see. Just a little bit, maybe.
Okay, so somebody Googled moss facts there, so
Okay.
it is, it's not 100%, but it's mostly on the north side of the trees.
That's what I thought. Okay.
But that general rule only applies if you're in the northern hemisphere.
Ooh, interesting. So, okay. Well, we would be in the northern hemisphere, right?
Yes.
So,
And also the rain in Spain falls mainly in the plains.
so we go down to Mexico to avoid the ice age, then we might not happen down there.
Well, part of it is...
Like that movie that we watched the other night.
but part of Mexico's in the northern hemisphere.
Oh, that's true.
I don't know how far. I don't know my geography very well, obviously. I kind of know where I am.
They came here for geography or
Survival tips.
survival tips. They're out of luck. Okay, so now I'm just kind of drawing through some lines with this black. Going a little bit darker on this side here, but it is kind of really pretty much all over. And I may need to do one more layer of the white just because I feel like it's... And really this is kind of a fine line because at some point it's starting to it'll get a muddy mess. So you just kind of have to know when to stop. You know, you don't want to overdo. Well, and especially when it's starting to dry like this, you know, you can always go back over it later once it's dry completely and do more layers. But when it's kind of in the middle of drying right now, like it is, if you continue and add and add and add, then you could end up with a real mess on your hands. So just kind of keep an eye on it. Right, so I'm going to give a little bit more of that. I'm going to get a little bit of the unburnt sienna. So I have kind of a warmish brown white color here. And I'm definitely going to have to clean off my palette before I do any other painting on here because it's created a huge mess on here. And I'm just going to go in with this and
I'm going to zoom in just so that people can see the different color tones.
okay.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then you can use the tip of it to draw through. So as long as you're creating going with that direction of the tree growth, you know, you can kind of get away with drawing through it. You'll already have kind of these directions in your branch. Just make sure, like I said, that you're following the same curve or the same thing all the way up. So you don't want some of these lines to be going this way and some of them to be going this way, you know, so just kind of keep an eye on that and make sure that it all kind of makes sense visually.
Okay, it's been confirmed that Mexico is completely in the northern hemisphere.
Oh, completely. All right.
Yeah.
We're learning all kinds of stuff.
Art, geography, survival skills, sometimes cooking. Pet tips.
Yep.
Cashmere's had the cat sitters.
Yeah, Cashmere's been banned from the studio. She's been too disruptive the last couple of weeks. So our cat has just become a diva. She's decided that she wants to be in all of the shows and really cute. All right, I think I'm going to call that good, and we'll Now down here, this is dry, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some of these same colors. Here, add some white to it so that it's a little bit lighter, and using the number 4 bright, I'm just going to draw some branches. Keep getting these hairs. So note to self, don't dry your hair just before you go on air, because my hair is all just kind of coming out everywhere onto the canvas. Okay, sorry. And I like to use the edge of my brush, but if you find that difficult to control, you could use the use like a round brush, you know, of some sort. But, getting a little bit lighter color here, and just kind of going along the edge. I need to smudge out that edge a little bit, so I'm going to get a little bit more white and just kind of soften up that edge. So by picking a color that's similar to the background, what we're doing is we're just kind of blurring out that edge a little bit with this lighter color here. The top part is going to get ice, so we don't have to worry about it, but that bottom section, I'm going to go ahead and go with this lighter color to do these other branches. It'll make them look farther back from this branch. Oh, okay. Well, I'm still using this big brush, but it's...
Oh, okay.
I'll try not to get it in the way. There's some. Go off this way. And just with branches, you just want to make sure that these ends are not thicker than the where they start. So if you end up with a thicker branch, you need to thicken up your trunk, the part up above it. It's always going to narrow as it goes far away from the branch. Hope that makes sense. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to get more white here. Really kind of make this very light. And that's really not supposed to look like it's coming from this tree, so if you want to, you can continue it back up in here. But I think it's all right. And also having these branches go off the edge of the canvas also helps with the kind of the realism of the whole thing. You know, if you have your branches all perfectly lined up and inside your composition, it's not as realistic. All right, so let's grab some white now on a thicker brush here, and I'm going to add a little bit of Grab a little bit of the blues, both blues, a little bit of brown. More blue than brown. I'm just trying to gray out the blue a little bit, creating that kind of a shadow color for our snow. I'm going to tab that on first. So this should be similar to this color back here that we did, if not the same exact color. I'm going to dab on our branch just on the top. And if you want to, you could switch to a brush like this. I might go ahead and do that at this point.
Which is called?
This is the Blender 1/4 inch. It's called a lunar blender in the select line. Okay, and it's not everywhere. Only the thicker branches are going to have the snow everywhere, so keep that in mind. Go ahead and grab some white now. And if I did the background dark enough, which I may not have, it's going to kind of, this is sort of blending in to what we've got going on in the background. Maybe I should have made my background just a little bit darker, but be able to see that snow on the branch there. Get it thick. Tab. Dab snow along our branch there. You could save this and do this all at the same time when you do your birdhouse, but I figured if some of this may be covered up by our birdhouse, I know this, most of this corner of this is going to be covered up by, so it'll be better to have this dry and in the background than you may have to use a hairdryer on it before you try to paint over it, so it's completely dry. But okay, that's good. And then I'm going to use this brush and just dab snowflakes, kind of largish snowflakes here and there. I'm just tapping. I want them to be white, not brown, so. And can do some over the top of our tree even. You could also use your Q-tip for this, or this is why I had this out, so you could use that instead if you wanted to. Okay, so there's our background. I think we're good. We're ready for our birdhouse. So 48 minutes.
I'm not sure it's a birdhouse.
What?
Looks more like a bird feeder to me.
Oh, bird feeder, yeah. Sorry.
I mean, they might be going for that open floor plan. But it might be dangerous for the kids. They might fall out.
Yeah. Okay, scrape up this paint here. Comes off a little bit easier if it's wet.
In your Facebook group this week, somebody posted a picture of their palette with the screen of your video in the background.
Uh-huh.
And their palette is like completely covered in paint, and yours has got like maybe half. And she's like, "Okay, what am I doing wrong?"
That's great.
This is at the same point of the video.
Yeah.
told everybody, but nobody believes me still, that she's a paint whisperer. Before she starts a video, she has a pep talk with it.
I do not.
She puts it in line. She's like, you will behave.
Do not get out of line.
Do not get out of line. Do not get in the feral. That's it.
Stay out. That's good.
If I told you once, I've told you 1,000 times.
Do not play in the feral of the brush. Don't visit your neighbors unless you've been invited. All right. Here we go. Get my hands clean, my palette clean. Let's get going with this birdhouse. I'm kind of wasting time here too to let this give us, and that's actually dried pretty quickly, so we're good. I'm not sure that that's gonna work. Let's try the blue. So our bottom of our birdhouse, let's see, we're wanting to fit it in right in here, so I want the top of it to be right about in here somewhere. And then this part is gonna come down right over this section here. Be about there. Open area. And then bottom section of it right here. That looks about right. Little bird's gonna be right in here. This little bird's right in here. This is the edge of this one. Right here. Very lightly, just kind of trying to map out our main areas here. And then I'll kind of go a little bit slower over it with you. That this is just kind of what I do to figure out my spacing. That's about right. Okay. Okay. I don't know if you could see any of that. Doesn't look like you can. Well, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I started out just kind of mapping out these main 3 lines. These are going to be our main sections. So these will all be kind of parallel. It's not exactly, like I said, it's a little bit turned away from us. So it's not exactly fully parallel to us or straight on from the viewer. This side is a little closer to us. So that technically kind of puts these lines at an angle, but to make it easier, if you want to, we can kind of square it up so that it's a little bit closer to square towards us here. So do your line there, across, and that's going to go over the top of our tree and almost to the edge right here. And then there'll be a line right here that's at a diagonal. And this line should match up mostly, ideally. Right there and there. And then this line parallel to this one. And then our inside post is going to be right in here. So this is the end of this right here. This edge. So we're going to come in about an inch or so. And we're going to have lines down here for that post. And then this post is going to be about the same, about an inch in. And it's going to go down right here and here. These should be parallel. In our photograph, they're not, because they're kind of, like I said, they're a little bit at an angle, but think we'll get away with doing it this way. Our photograph is very off because that cardboard is all wonky. So, but the thing is that when we're painting it, like in the photograph, you can tell it's cardboard. In a painting, you may not, like, you know, so if you get it really wonky in a painting, chances are people are going to think that you did it wrong, you know. So that's why I'm kind of trying to correct it just a little bit. I mean, it can still be a little bit skewed, but I don't want it as skewed as our original because I just feel like it would be distracting from the composition. So trying to square up those lines there. This is a little bit wider than this because it's the inside corner of this, so it's actually two pieces where they meet. And then this line right here is just above. You're seeing just a little bit of the inside there, like that. And then this line here, we're not seeing it all because there's a bunch of bird feed and the bird is right in here. So I'm going to put the bird right in here. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than our photograph there. And then here's this bird. Here's his little head. Here's his back, body. The body should be about the level of this, so I'm going to actually bring him up a little bit because he's a little higher than this bird. It's a little closer to us. So round circle for the head and then an egg shape for the body. And the tail is coming off this way. And a little bit of the wings coming down right here. Right there. And then his legs are here and here. I'm not worried about the legs right now. I'm just trying to get the shapes in. And then, so we've got our angle here. And we're going to come down this way. And this bottom is actually almost level with this. So I guess we're seeing it at on the same level here. There's a little bit of an angle right here where we're seeing the inside lip of that roof line. And then there's actually in reality this line and this line, there should be another line here, but it's kind of covered up by this angle here. So we're not really seeing the inside line here. We're just seeing a little bit of this yellow right here where it's coming across. And then this is going to be right here. And right in here. And this line is this line right here that we did. So right there. Okay. So not too difficult to draw. It's pretty straightforward. If you've ever drawn one of those box things, you know, in school where you had to draw a box and do the lines and everything, it's pretty similar concept. Here's this bird. His breast is coming outside the edge right there, and his tail's kind of hidden back here. And this one he's all scrunched up, so his head's real down low to his body, so it's almost like a full egg shape. There's just a little bit of a nook at the top there where his head goes. All right, so I think that's close enough. Like I said, I have the drawing available on Patreon in case you want to use that on yours. Makes it a lot easier. So what I would do is just done the background the exact same way and then transfer on the design with tracing paper and transfer paper, and it'll be ready to go to paint. And I get a lot of flack from people who are like purists and think that tracing is cheating and you should learn to draw, which I 100% agree. Learning to draw helps you with painting, but you do not have to know how to draw to be able to paint. I started learning to paint by doing decorative painting, which is, of course, I went to college and learned to draw and all that, but I also did decorative painting for years. And you basically you use wood and you start out with an outline and then you fill in. But there's so much that happens inside that outline. It's not, you're not cheating in any way. You're just kind of basically giving yourself a head start on the process. You're not, the painting is difficult enough in itself. It's a whole separate discipline. So I feel like anything that you can use that helps you in your process, makes the process of learning to paint easier and more fun for you is worthwhile. So, what?
I was just going to say, did you say there's so much inside the outside?
No, there's so much inside the process.
Oh, okay.
That you're...
That's like very deep thoughts.
No, I don't think I said the inside, the outside. If I did, I didn't. I don't know what I was saying there, but...
Or outside the inside?
I'm not sure. Okay, so I can tell already that I'm adding white to this because that Cobalt Teal does not want to cover these branches and things. We don't want them showing through I was tempted to start out with my drawing already on my canvas, but there was so much going into the background. I just didn't want to have to paint around it. I just felt like it would go on a little bit easier, but you can see it's going to be textured, and this area here is going to be really textured on our roof. But since we're doing snow on top, I don't think it'll be a big deal. But you may want to just kind of watch it on your tree if you want to, draw on your, maybe before you do your tree or transfer on your tree, you might keep in mind where that roof line is going to go and do a little bit thinner paint layer on that section, because otherwise you'll be able to see it underneath. We're going to have a textured area underneath our birdhouse here where that was at. So, something to think about. But like I said, we are going to put snow on top, so that's going to texture our roof. So I think we can kind of get away with it by doing, a lot of, like an extra textured layer of snow that kind of masks this texture underneath. But I'm not really loving having the texture there. I wish I thought about that when I was doing my tree here. I would have scraped off this part. You could still do the tree the same way and then just kind of scrape off this section a little bit before it dries to get it a little smoother. But I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Okay. And I'm not really adding anything to this Cobalt Teal. It's almost the exact color that I'm seeing on this roof of the birdhouse. So we got lucky there that we already had the color kind of pre-mixed. And you could do this birdhouse any color you wanted to. So if you decided you don't want these colors, because these are kind of like Easter colors on this birdhouse. They're very like spring-like, which I like because it kind of gives a little bit, colorful pop to this winter feeling painting, Makes it a little bit more cheerful looking. But you could totally do this whatever color you wanted to. I would just caution you to use colors that are not too vibrant. Even if you did like a red, I would still like tone it down a little bit. Use the other colors that are in your painting already. So use some of the blue or the gray in your background and tone down your colors so that they match a little bit. So you're not just adding a color that's like way out there in a new. This Cobalt Teal has some of the Phthalo blue that we used in the background, so it matches, it fits, What were you saying?
I'm going to say that the video on Tuesday is going to be like a how-to beginner's class.
It is. It is. I think it's going to be
color mixing.
Yeah, one of the better. Hopefully, if I have enough time to do it right, and we may have to make it a 2-part one. We'll see how much time we have left, have in it to get it. But I'm hoping for it to be a really good informative video on just the basics of color mixing, how to mix a basic palette, how to pick your colors so that you know that how they're going to blend with each other, how to kind of anticipate what the colors are going to do by, you know, figuring out if they're warm or cool colors. Mixing a little bit of the yellow oxide with my unbleached titanium and titanium white here, and I still have a little bit of this blue on my brush, so it's toning it a little bit. But yeah, just kind of just the basics of color mixing, how I figure out how to mix certain colors, kind of my go-to colors for mixing certain things, and how, you know, how I figure out, like, if I've got a color that I don't know exactly how to mix, how I go about figuring out how to do that, you know. Because I get a lot of questions about color mixing, and so I think that it'll be a good kind of just basic how to approach, you know, color mixing type video. And hopefully, even if you've been painting a while, it'll be helpful. That's the goal, at least. So hopefully you guys will join us for that. I'm going to add a little bit of brown to this, just to give it a little shadow right in here. And going to just scrape through. And I think I'm going to, well, we'll see. I'm going to mix up the colors, but instead of just letting them kind of go to waste on my palette, I'm going to create kind of an abstract painting as we go along, as we're talking about color mixing. We're just going to use those colors and kind of scrape them onto a canvas and see what happens. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what we come up with. I don't do a lot of abstracts, so it'll be kind of fun to try and see what our background ends up looking like with all the colors that we mix during the show. All right, so I'm going to get a little bit of the yellow, cadmium yellow, medium and light here, grabbing some white. I'm going to grab some of this color that we just used right here. And if at any point you can see your branches through this, just add white to whatever it is you're using, and that will help match it up. I'm going to go ahead and use this on my birds while I have it. Start filling them in. They're going to mix with, since I used the blue chalk, it's going to turn this yellow a little bit of green, but that's all right. We'll give it a couple coats, so this won't be the final color. And what we can do too is, once we get this first layer on here, once we get our paint kind of drawn on here, then we can erase all of our chalk and see what we have left to paint. Hi. How you doing, hon?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. We're making good time on this, I think.
Yeah, I'm holding my own over here.
Good. I'm making a coral pink with a little bit of the yellow here. I'm just going to use that yellow that we used on the bird and add a little Quinacridone Magenta to it. And then some white. Pretty darn close. If your paint's going on dry like that, grab a little bit of water. I'm going to go ahead and spray my palette. The water will help that paint go on more more smoothly. Get a little bit more pink tone in here. And this way, if you want to, you could use your ruler and line it up and just paint alongside that ruler to get your lines perfectly straight. I'm gonna live on the wild side today and just kind of do it by hand, but it's a real easy way to get straight lines. I'm definitely not covering my chalk lines here. They're just a little bit outside the lines there that I want for this. So it's a little bit easier for me. I like to do it in chalk and just kind of get a general, you know, a general line, and then I use my paint to actually kind of draw it on more solidly. So, and make edits with the paint. It's just easier for me to see than with the chalk sometimes, especially when it's this thick of a chalk on a canvas. I used the chalk instead of my watercolor pencil though, because my paint was still so wet that I was afraid that that watercolor pencil would just tear that paint right off the canvas if I pressed down too hard. So that's why I use chalk sometimes, and sometimes watercolor pencil. If I'm going onto a canvas that's dry completely, then I can use the watercolor pencils, and it's a lot easier because then you can get a lot more detail in. But the chalk's softer, so it's a little bit more easy on the fresh paint. Go ahead and I find that it's easier to kind of do straight lines if I use the edge of my flat brush than to try to do it this way. Somehow I get it's a little bit harder to get a straight line if you're doing it this way than if you're doing it this way. I'm really not sure why, but I think it's just because this flat edge is kind of already giving you a head start. You've got that much of a line already done versus this way, you know, to get to there you have to pull that far. So I would go through and do outline either side of my line that I'm doing, and then fill in the middle. And that way you can get a nice clean edge there and there. And I always kind of turn it so that that I'm pulling kind of right to left at a little bit of an angle. Just whatever feels comfortable for you, that you can kind of do this motion without having to really twist or turn this angle of the brush, and you just kind of use it and go along like that. You can get a really nice line. Versus when you do it like this, you tend to pull, your line tends to kind of curve a little bit. And also you can, especially if you're doing it this way, you can end up with a wobbly line unless you're using a ruler to go along and guide you. So just some free bonus tips there.
In addition to the free video?
Right.
Nice.
Okay. So I'm going to go, it's just inside where that yellow ends. And we're just seeing like the edge. So it's not as wide as this part because we're seeing the edge of this. And then we're seeing the white of the inside of the post. So I I think I definitely narrowed, I shortened the bird feeder down a little bit. I think in our reference photo it's a little bit higher here, but I kind of like that it's a little cozier. Trying to keep these lines all kind of parallel here as much as I can. This one's got the bird's head kind of in the way right here. And if you wanted to, I don't see why you couldn't just go ahead, and I'm kind of tempted to just go ahead and do all of the posts this pink, just because who's to say it wasn't painted on the inside, right? I mean, we might as well make it how we want it to be. Exactly. It's our birdhouse, so we can adjust it however we want to. So I'm kind of thinking I might make the inside of that bird feeder the color the same as this post on the outside, just so that it looks a little bit more. You be you. Right. Oh, sorry. You do you. You do you.
I'm not good at those.
You don't know me.
Hey. Just have a beautiful life over there.
I'm sorry, that's a reference to a show I was watching this week. What was it called? Glam Master or something? Oh my gosh, that's
Glam
so
Masters.
cheesy.
I found what I could do for my next profession. I could be just a makeup model.
You could do the hosting pretty well too. You were getting the accent of the host down pretty well. There, it was cheesy and awesome. I loved it. Mm-hmm. Marco makes fun of the shows I like to watch. It's like, what are you watching? Oh my gosh. It's awesome.
I mean, the content was interesting for sure.
Oh yeah, it was. It was. The host was just a little over the top.
Mona was laughing at my comment that I could be a makeup model. I don't know if I should be offended. I would do well with my beard. I mean, there's very little you could do, so.
Oh my gosh. Mark Anderson. All right. I think I'm going to just make these all the same. And then we'll just pretend like they're all on one plane, if that makes sense. So instead of having a corner here to deal with, I think I'm just going to have them all be straight posts down in each corner here, and then we'll call it good, because that way we don't have to worry. So then this one and this one would match up about the same distance away. So I just need to make sure I'm matching up this and this would be about the same width. So we're just going to do that, and that I think that'll eliminate the issues that I'm having with I just don't think that it's going to look good having this weird white in the middle. So I'm going to make it about the same distance away here. So it's about one brush width away-ish. And we'll just do like this, and I think it'll look good. Fingers crossed. If you don't like it, the traceable's done the other way, so you can use it if you don't like this. But I think it's going to look better just to have it like, maybe not look as maybe realistic, but I don't know. We'll see. We can always fix it later if we need to. We decide we hate it. But. It would look like this if there was just a straight piece of whatever flat on the outside and inside and not a corner. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to get a little bit more white here. I'm just going to dry brush some white. And it's mixed with my pink, so it's not white. I'm just going to frost that a little bit there and there. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put another layer of that blue up there while I'm seeing it, because it needs another layer to cover up that branch right there. And I'm letting it be kind of messy. So we got a little bit of depth. It's got a little bit of pink in there. A little bit of the darker color. Just breaking up that color there. We're going to be putting basically this whole roof is going to be covered with white. So just give it a little bit of texture and stuff underneath that snow to give it some dynamic color. All right, I'm going to use this wet brush here. Or actually, let's just get a wet paper towel. And go through and wipe off all of this that we don't need now. Just make sure your color is dry. Paint. What are you laughing at?
Or it'll just get real messy if it's not.
You're remembering when I've done that and it's not been dry.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so my brushes that I've originally used for that background, I'm just going to keep them damp. So every now and then I'm dipping them into the water there. All right, getting some Quinacridone Magenta, a little bit of blue, making a violet, and if I wanted a little bit more purple, I'm going to add more blue to it. That's about the color there. I could have used Dioxazine purple, I thought about it, but we've already got these colors going on in our painting, so it makes sense to just kind of mix the purple since we haven't used it anywhere else. This color we know this will go with our colors because we have used it elsewhere. It's all the colors we've already been using. That'll work. Yeah, that line is definitely curved in a little bit. Right there. Bring this out just a little bit. Run that line. You're typing up a storm over there.
Yeah, I was wishing Happy Lunar New Year to everybody.
Happy what?
Lunar New Year.
What is that? Is that the Chinese New Year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. You know what the year is?
Yes.
Year of the rat.
You dirty rat.
I noticed that Cinnamon drew a rat, or she did a video on a rat. I'm like, kudos to her for her bravery. And it's really cute, too. She did a cute one. It's like a little rat in a teacup. Adorable. We had a big pet rat in college.
Yes, we did.
Named it Baby. She was so smart. She'd come when you called her like a dog. And she'd sit on my shoulder and run down my arm while I was eating cereal. And she'd run down and get a little piece of cereal out of my bowl. And then sit on my hand and her shoulder and eat it, and just like so cute.
And steal newspaper.
Oh yeah, she'd steal anything that wasn't tied down, any pieces of paper, fabric, tissues, anything.
We'd be sitting on the couch and she'd jump up there and then start yanking the newspaper off the couch and pulls it under there.
And then she'd try to jump with it, and she'd be stepping on it. She was cute. Yeah, it was sad when she died.
Yep, and then we learned that hamsters or gerbils are not the same.
No, not the same. Not nice. Not smart and not nice.
Rats are very playful, and you can scare them and stuff, and they don't mind.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do that to the other ones.
You.
They will bite the snot out of you.
Yeah, baby, you could jump, and she'd like fall on her belly, and you could get her belly, and she'd laugh, she'd laugh and giggle kind of type. She'd chitter like super cute. Like, yeah, she was great pet. And we're like, well, let's get 2 gerbils. And no, they were so mean. They didn't want anything to do with us.
Yep.
That was a fail. And they lived forever. Like baby wouldn't die. Or baby died like within a year, and those gerbils lasted forever. Could care less. All right, doing a little bit darker color on the inside here. Not too worried about. And I'm just kind of trying to get the line sort of correct, although I'm realizing that so we need to make sure that my bird is covering that little bit right there, because I don't want that exposed. So bringing this line up just a little bit into my bird. Cashmere was having fun watching the birds this morning in the window. Our cat, she thinks she's a hunter, though she's never been outside. Well, I shouldn't say never. She is scared.
She doesn't go outside.
She doesn't.
Normally.
She does every now and then. She'll get a wild hair, and she'll...
If we're out there for a while.
Yeah.
But as soon as you make a move for the door, she runs.
Or close the door. Nope. Yeah. Do not. All right, so just kind of pushing through there in that corner to get a little bit of a darker corner right there, and a little bit maybe over here. There we go. So there's our basic box shape. Done. I feel like the head of this bird is, I don't know, we'll see if it works out. We may have to bring that pink down a little bit. I'm going to get the smaller brush here. Actually, let's go ahead and get the bigger one, and we'll go ahead and put the snow on the roof of the cottage manor. We are going through the white today. More white. And I'm going to use this teal here and add it to the white, so I have kind of a shadow color to my snow. I'll put that on first. And I'm just going to dab some areas are just almost all solid. Then I could probably use a Deerfoot Stippler for this too. I think this one will be easier. I'm just going to try not to do these repeating. This wants to like leave these repeating shapes because it's such a distinct shape. So just make sure that you're kind of going up and down and back and forth to kind of soften up this round crescent shape. You don't want to end up with, a bunch of repeat, like little matchy crescent shapes there. So I'm going to kind of tap in a line and up and down just a little bit to break it up a little bit. Leave a little bit of that blue showing through in places. But the whole roof is pretty much ice and snow. So I'm going to tap down, and again right here in this area I want to make sure that I'm getting some good texture to counteract the texture on that tree, but I'm not really seeing it being a big issue. I think the main part that's going to really show is that post right there. There's just a little line there when you hit the light just the right way. I definitely think I could have done the background just a little bit darker. This is just a little bit less dramatic. Now we could always go back in and wash some darker color on that background if we really wanted to. I'm not seeing the snow on the top, kind of the same as the branches there. It's not really showing up against that light blue background very much. I'm going just above the roof line with my snow along that edge. I'm turning my brush to the side when I need a thinner line. How you doing, hon?
I'm doing good.
Is it time for your nap?
It's about nap time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I'm going back in with that bright white, tapping in and creating some kind of drifts in the snow. So you can see kind of some areas where it's really kicked on. Just kind of scraping it side to side on those parts where I want it more solid. Okay, and then there's some snow hanging off in a couple places along the outside edges here. Let's do it along here. Get some of that blue. edge there. And then get that white and really kick it up. And I'm gonna bring some in right here on the underside. Kind of stuck there and stuck to the front side of the, and not that much. But that'll help kind of break up that branch thing too that's right there. So it could look like there's snow along that outside edge of this. Tap right along that edge. Icy. Ice, baby.
We'll need a fire tonight to warm up after this one.
I think so. We did get ice this week too. At school out early. I don't know why they send the kids to school and then send them home. Alright, I'm going to get some of this wheat color if I can get it. Let's get the unbleached titanium. I'm just going to kind of put some kind of seed color down in here under the snow. Just a little bit. Could add brown and stuff too, but mainly you really aren't seeing a whole lot of it. Mainly seeing the snow. Just get a little bit of of brown, a little bit of that teal color that we were using there, and use that for the shadowing on our snow and ice down here. And it's pretty much going to fill up this whole area here. So the birds are having to peck through the snow to get to that feed. Put some of this underneath the drifts. Here, make sure they have a little bit of a shadow. What are you doing, hon? Checking your phone?
Mm-hmm. Just wondering where Dave is.
Oh.
Haven't seen him since the new year.
Really? It's not good. These are like his favorite with the snow.
I know.
I would think. Doing a lot of splattering. Okay. You get a little bit of glazy medium, some white. I'm gonna ice up these edges here. I'm just using the glazy medium to kind of make it a little bit more transparent, and gonna ice this bottom edge. Soften up that whole thing up there. Just kind of give it a little bit of a frosted look. And get a little bit of white and kind of go along with the white. Again, this would kind of show up a little bit better if I had done my background darker. I keep forgetting to do that when I do my wintry. I don't do that much wintry. Well, I mean, like once a year we do just, you know, a handful of winter paintings, and I always forget to do my backgrounds darker so that snow shows up a little bit better. It's a problem. So let me see if I can get a little bit of a darker gray going on back there. A little bit of blue, a little bit of burnt umber, a lot of glazing medium, a lot of glazing medium.
Somebody asked if floating medium is the same as glazing medium.
No, but you can do similar stuff with it. You could get, you could get the similar effect. Basically, you're just wanting something that thins out your paint for you. So, and floating medium. Floating medium is more of like a flow medium from what I understand. I don't use it, but... it's probably a bad idea. I'm just trying to add some dark around my birdhouse here, but I don't know that I'm helping anything. Yeah, she continues to do it. It really works if you do the whole area, because we're really needing to tint the whole thing a little bit darker, not just around the birdhouse. So if you do this, you kind of want to sort of do it everywhere. But I would just do your background just a little bit darker than I did mine, and then you avoid having to do this. Just put some white up against it and see if it shows. If it doesn't show, then add a little bit more of the dark color, because you just need that white to kind of pop off against it. That's better. Now you just kind of dirtied up the whole background a little bit. Gosh, our neighbor, that truck every Saturday. Someone needs to go and buy him a new muffler.
But it wouldn't be as cool.
Yeah, I guess not.
Don't worry, I'll drive by his place in my Prius.
He's just...
I'll teach him. That may have been a little too loud.
You have to get up to like 100 for it to make that much noise. I'm going to add a little bit of brown to this color here. Darken it up. Use it right in here. Just realized I didn't have any kind of shadow in my thing, so I may have to put your snow back in, which is fine. But adding a little bit of a shadow there. Okay. Use some water here to blend it out a little bit. Okay. And then we can use that white now that we've got our background a little bit more dark. Could grab some white here and really cake it on up here. It'll be much more noticeable. Plus we probably needed a little bit, an extra layer. White kind of tends to, even though it's opaque, it tends to take a couple of coats to get it really bright. It just tends to blend back into whatever color's underneath, kind of merges into it. Okay. Icy stuff going on there. Let's get our birds on. So let's get a little bit of the black. I'm gonna draw in my heads of my birds. So this black line kind of comes almost straight back here, and then there's this little white cheek that comes around like this. Well, actually, it's a little bit thinner right there, but that's all right. And then there's this little black detail in the breast. Goes all the way down and underneath. Get some blue, white. This is blue, blue-gray. And I've probably made him a little chubby.
It's okay. It's wintertime.
That's true. They do get a little more chubbed out in winter. Probably fluffed out. Well, like right in here, that area back there is not. I made him a little bit bigger than in the body here than he needed to be. Back there, let me see if I can blur it out a little bit. This is white here. What, did I hit my hand in there? I don't know how I ended up with that face looking like that. Kind of weird.
Softly quiet.
Just dabbing, kind of going along with the direction that these feathers, that I'm seeing the feathers growing. Tend to kind of come straight up and back over the forehead. So these ones will kind of come back this way. Get a little bit of white here. Put a little highlight on top of the beak. And then the eyes, just a little bit of a highlight there. There's not a whole lot to it. Curves down just a little bit. And then grab some of that yellow, mix that with the black. Creates that kind of a gray-green that we're seeing on the back of the bird here. So the back feathers there. Add a little bit of white. There's always a little bit of a shadow underneath the wing and at the bottom of the body.
Your brush has been in the pool a while.
Okay. Thank you.
So as we mentioned before, that there'll be a traceable available at patreon.com/angelafineart. They're at the $1 level right now, and then there's other levels also. That the $5 level gets you the traceable and access to a monthly bonus video, which we already did this month, but it's still available for you to check out, and also all the past monthly bonus videos. And they also get the photos, right?
Yes, they get the photos, the finished, they get the traceables and the finished reference photos for all the paintings. So finished painting of mine and then reference photos that I'm using.
And then the $10 level is all of that, plus access to a Facebook group where she does a month-long tutorial where breaks it up over the 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it is, and does that, and also takes polls and answers questions and stuff like that.
And does critiques upon request. So whatever you're working on. Let's see, this is the one we're working on right now this month. So we're almost done. We're going to do the big white spiky thing. We're going to do some work on the water and do some big white spiky feathers coming off of here like they have, and then do some glazing on him, but he's almost done. So I've got one more week left on him. There's our bear from last Tuesday, which I thought he was fun. And then this is the bonus video from that. So we do I choose something that I know is going to take, several hours. So this one has been like 5 hours so far, or maybe more. And then this one was like 4.5, 5 hours almost. So we just can't do those on YouTube on a regular Saturday. We just try to keep the YouTube ones down to a couple hours, at 3 at most, if possible. Sometimes we go longer than that, but for the most part, I try to keep them down to a reasonable time. And so the Patreon stuff, we just save for the things that we know are going to take a long longer. They're a little bit more complex paintings, a little bit more details going into them and stuff. A little bit more finished quality, So if you're kind of wanting to learn a little bit more in depth, then those might be interesting to you. Okay. this black. There we go. Around that bird there. And I may give him a little bit more detail here in a minute, but I think we're pretty close on him. He ended up being a little bit fatter than our reference bird, but that's okay. So his leg is coming back from right here forward, here and here. This one's coming out more at an angle. This one's coming almost straight down here. Still using that kind of black gray color. And their toes are kind of well jointed, so I'm just kind of dabbing to get those kind of jointed look. And then doing a teeny tiny little claw on each one of them. The middle one's going to be longer than the other two.
Well, you remembered the feet.
I did. Proud of me.
Yes, you're learning.
I tend to forget the feet on my birds for some reason. That's obviously we're only seeing the 3 front claws here. There. Back ones are underneath somewhere. Hidden. Let's get a little bit more black here. Do this guy. You could do bluebirds or really any birds you wanted to if you wanted to do, you know, something a little bit easier that doesn't have as much detail in them. These ones kind of have a little bit more complicated as far as birds go. I tend to paint these ones a lot though. I find a lot of pictures with these, so they must be really common, and I think they're a European bird called great tit. They're not the blue tits. The blue tits are ones that we've painted before on
the fence.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Last winter. Yeah, we did one. So. Which I always feel like YouTube's gonna stalk us when we say that word.
Well, there was a very in-depth discussion about this earlier in chat, and
which bird it was?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what they decided it was.
Well, yeah, pretty much, yep.
Mm-hmm.
I maintained my composure the best I could.
Nobody got voted from the chat window?
No.
Did it pick?
It did block some people, but...
Did it really?
Yeah.
You have to be careful what words you say on there. Yeah, and I had to go through and manually write all those words out, so if you can imagine that. That was fun. What possible slur words could people use in chat? Just come up with every possible conceivable combination of words. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Sad that you have to do that, but you know, live stros, you have to get all kinds. All right, so I definitely didn't make him as scrunched down because I'm looking at my reference photo and his back and his head are almost the same height. So he's definitely not as scrunched out as the reference photo, but I think he's good enough. I've got the right angle here, so I'm not gonna mess with it too much. I'm pretty happy with the size there. I mixed up a little bit of the ultramarine blue with my black for just this back area here, and his tail feathers are coming off the back here, so you can't see them because they're back in here underneath this post. So I'm going to use a little bit of white. What time is it? 2 hours. Okay. Just need to get these guys done and we'll be done. I figured it'd be a little around 2 hours. I wasn't sure. Hard to tell sometimes. So there's a little bit of white cheek showing right here.
So is this is this painting real or is it photoshopped?
I think it's real. It looked real. When I zoomed in, I couldn't really see anything that made me think it was Photoshop, so I'm pretty sure it was real. Plus, if you're going to Photoshop, you wouldn't leave it all wonky like they did. It was pretty messed up. And I'm pretty sure this is real. So we got an eye there. Again, these birds, these eyes are kind of hard to see. This beak is coming off this way, right here. So, and this eye over here is completely, pretty much missing.
So does he need a pirate patch?
Maybe.
Okay.
Make me laugh. I'm trying to paint here.
I mean, you can add a pirate patch to your bird if you want to. Again, as we said earlier, it's your painting, so no rules.
Yep. You're painting your rules.
That may push it into the Photoshop realm, but
Probably. Could give this one a peg leg, little crutch right here. If you're going to go that way. You might have to add a parrot somewhere too. Just saying. So think about that.
I don't think he could carry a parrot on
For
his shoulder.
continuity sake.
I think the parrot's a little bit bigger than he is.
Then you may have to rethink the pirate theme idea.
Okay.
Okay, he's looking really weird over here. I think I got this part up here is a little bit too big. That's the problem. So, got too much black around the outside there. So I'm just going to give it some of my white here. And this shoulder here is more of a that yellow color. We're definitely putting these birds in a little bit more impressionistic style because my photograph is just not good enough to do anything else. So, a little bit of the white now with the yellow. I'm just kind of going back and forth and adding all these different colors to create layers. In my color, going a little bit brighter yellow now. Okay. I think my eye is just a little too far forward is the problem. Eye's going to be farther back over here. So this is the curve right here. We're trying to thing, and then our eye is going to be right here. I had it a little bit farther forward. And then here's our beak. And there's just a little tiny line for you to be able to tell where the beak highlight is. So it's right in here. And then a little highlight on that eye back in here. A little bit darker color on the top there. Really only seeing the highlight on the back side of the eye. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of a highlight on the top of the beak just to kind of define it a little bit better. Get that black and on this guy you can't really see where his feet are, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of create some feet with some dark light gray and just kind of put them down in this way where I know they would be kind of heading down into the snow. Okay. Okay. Now let's do our last little guy over here. And to hide the feet, I'm just going to grab a little bit of snow and just going to dab in front right there. Maybe around this guy's feet a little bit. Make sure I've got a line there where that Birdfeeder edge is. And this guy's kind of turned his head looking in. So we've got this curve right here. And rounded shape right here. And underneath, just doing like that. And a very thin line around the outside. The head that curves down and kind of meets up with this. There, and then this side is not visible, but you're seeing the back side of the wing, so we can get a little bit of that ultramarine blue there. Or actually it's that green color up there. So mix that dark green and do that up in here. All the way down that way. And then this feather details are all down in here this way, curving around. He's again a lot fatter than what we see in the picture, so we're going to be making these guys all kind of chubby today. That's all right. It definitely is a lot bigger down here too. Trying to see where his feather's gonna go to. So his legs are right back here. Coming around the side. Right there. And get that green color for kind of underneath here, and just, I don't know what I just picked up. Oh, I'll grab the little bit of that. So just trying to fill in that area there. And I may have put his leg a little too far back there. Let's just kind of use some white here to kind of fuzz over and blend that in a little bit. There's a little bit of white right here on his back too, right here. Little detail in the wings. And there's a little bit of it right here that we're seeing. I'm just going to kind of fuzz up this whole area so you can't really tell what is happening back there. If you kind of make it the same color as that background, it's just sort of all disappears. What are you laughing at now?
Yeah.
Like,
Just can't tell what's going on back there.
I don't know. Well, I think the body goes up and around right here, but I think I made him too far. Like I said, I think I made that leg a little too far forward. So just kind of making him a little bit chubbier all around there. And oh, that's why. In the picture, there's ice right there. I'm like, why can't I see what's going on there? Well, because there's a huge chunk of ice that comes down right here that covers that whole area. Okay, so there we go. I was like, oh, why can't I figure this out? Because it's not in the picture. Okay, so, and if you need to, you can, but yeah, that you can, I think that looks like ice there, so you can tell that's done it. Mm-hmm. If it did, we could probably add a little bit of the blue to it if we need to, but, and I probably need to add some along this side of the bird feeder too. All the way up there. That way you can kind of tell what it, you know, that it's ice. That bright white. Okay. Better. Okay. Getting that brighter yellow. No? What were you saying?
You figured it out.
Well, yeah. I was like, why is this so hard? Well, because it's not in the picture. I can't see it. I can't tell what's there. cover it up. All right, and then, so the black eye, or let's do the beak area for this guy. So we've got this area here all dark. Let's get the white. Go in here with that. And then our beak is right in between right here. Turning that all right. Outline the beak a little bit. It's black. A little bit of a black highlighter down the middle of it, and then on the either side is the lighter gray, more light gray on this side than this side. This side's got like a little bit of a bright white highlight, if I can get it to come off my brush. There we go. And then a little bit of a highlight where that eye is, right there. Get a little bit of that black. And just going to create a little rounded part right there where that eye is. And this eye you can't really see because it's back in here, but I'm just going to go ahead and kind of not draw it in, but kind of put where it's at, kind of create a little bit of a dip right there in the feathers, so we know that that's kind of where the eye socket is. Does that make sense? And a little bit more of the dark black. All right, zoom out. Let's see what we got here. I think we're close. Yeah. Do a little bit of black over the top of that. Thin it out a little bit. There we go. So let's do some snow and we'll be done. I'm gonna get a little bit. What?
AKA splatters.
Yes.
Sweet.
Get a little bit of the Zinc White on my fan brush here. get too much on our little birdies, we can, this one's got a lot on him. Dab off where we don't want it. Like you don't want it like over the top of the eye like that did there. And then to get smaller, we just get less paint on our brush. It'll come off a little bit smaller. Smaller snowflakes, splatters.
It has been pointed out that the feeder is magically hovering.
Yes, thank you. I just.
So I gave you points for remembering the feet, but I might have to take them away
For the
wire.
hanger. Okay.
It's not as bad as a hammock controversy, but
It was getting there.
well, no, it was just one comment.
The hammock was multiple comments.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. I didn't want it quite that dark, so just kind of get a medium gray. There we go. There we go. And if you want to, you could make a little eye hook or whatever if you want to, have it a little bit more like obvious where the thing's attached. But on our picture, it's like string, and there's a string here, a string here, a string that goes up underneath, a string that's tied around here. It's like they're everywhere. So I looked carefully when I was doing the traceable, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. We're just going to do a couple and call it good. I'm going to do a bunch of snow on the outside of this guy. Snow on this branch here. So we made all that dark. It kind of turned the snow that was on that branch muddy. I'm going to make a little bit more of my purple if I can. Try to get it close enough and kind of put some of that back in right there because it was disappeared on me. All right, I think we're done. What do you think? Good enough?
Sure.
I feel like we could glaze. Sorry, I waited for you to say that, and I was like, not.
I keep falling for it. I don't. I'm off this year.
Sorry. I didn't even wait for you to answer. I'm like, no, we're not. All right,
I know you're not talking to me,
I'm going to glaze right in here. This is just going to tone that snow a little bit and give it a little bit of depth. So just a little bit of glaze with my teal. There we go. And I might even use it down in some of the snow that's down in here too. Get the run along there and then do some fresh white on top. Okay, let me sign it. And we'll call it good. Super chat. So I'm going about a finger's width above the edge in case we frame it. I can't sign my own name.
All right, so we got some super chats out there.
Yay.
So it started off with Wendy. No special message. But then it was followed up by Wendy
Oh,
with no special message. But
Thank you,
thank
Wendy.
you for the double donation there.
hopefully she meant to double donate.
Yeah, and then we had Shirley. But again, no special comments. So thank you, Shirley. and
Thank you,
Wendy.
Shirley.
And then just here at the end, we had a donation from Michelle.
Oh,
And again, no message, but thank you.
Thank you guys
Thank you very
so
much
much.
for your support. Appreciate it.
We
And we'll
really
just let the
do.
disco lights go a little bit longer because they're awesome.
I'm going to add just a little bit of a pop of really bright yellow to our birds. I'm noticing they're looking a little dingy. So just kind of brightening those up, trying to paint around my snowflakes, which is probably ought to do this first before you snowflake it up. There we go. All right, that was fun. Hope you guys try it. If you do, share it with me on social media. I'd love to see it. And we will be back on Tuesday. Hope you come back for that one, especially if you're interested in color mixing at all. I think it's going to be a good basic lesson on, how to pick your colors and how to read it. I'll go a little bit over a color wheel, but I'm going to talk mostly about color dynamics, warm and cool colors, how they interact and mix with each other, and how to match up colors to whatever you're trying to paint. So I think it'll be a fun painting. And we'll be doing an abstract with it at the same time, just kind of smearing the colors on our canvas and see what happens. So I think it'll be fun. Hope you join us for it.
Yes.
And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe and all that good stuff. And we will be back next week. We're going to do a flower next week. So this will be next Saturday. We'll be starting on our February paintings. We've got our schedule up already. So if you want to see what we're painting in February, you can check out our schedule. I'm just adding a few random little snowflakes here and there. Check that out on our channel page. Just click on my name or my photograph and it'll take you to my channel homepage. Also on the channel homepage, while you're there, if you like our videos and you want to keep seeing them and get suggested every week, there's a little bell icon next to the subscribe button. If you click that, YouTube will send you an email whenever we upload a new video. So that way you know that you'll get the notification. Otherwise, YouTube sometimes doesn't suggest our videos if you haven't watched them within the week or so. It's weird how that algorithm works, but it kind of tries to pick what you're most recently watched, and it'll suggest a bunch of videos, and then sometimes the people that you actually do enjoy but haven't seen in a while will drop off the face of the earth. So it just helps if you want to.
You know what I've found?
What?
Is that I've just started clicking not interested in all these random videos, and now I did that for a couple of weeks, and now I'm getting mostly suggestions from the channels that I watch a lot of.
To?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's nice. That's a good idea.
Not to be rude to all the other people, but
well, it's just frustrating when you subscribe to channels and tell YouTube that, hey, I want to see more from this person, and then they end up, suggesting all these things that you've not subscribed to, which is fine every now and then, but it's like the majority of my, like you said, the majority of my stream is not people that I've subscribed to. It's people that are random people that I've never heard of, So, yeah, anyhow. All right, so off that subject. Anyhow, all that to say, if you want to beat the algorithm and you for sure like our videos, go and click that icon there, the little bell icon, and it'll make sure that you get notification of our videos. All right, we will see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.